early morning wind carried whispers, soft and cruel, as it swept through the red clay paths of Umwes, a small village nestled between swaying palm trees and ancient baobab trees. Smoke curled from thatched kitchens, blending with the sharp scent of wood ash and boiling yam. Children chased roosters across compounds, their laughter rising above the village like hopeful birds. But at the far end of the village, in a mud walled hut with faded blue paint, silence lived like a ghost. Nena sat on a low stool outside her home, her arms wrapped around her knees. Her eyes, sunken from years of silent grief, watched her youngest child, Adaizi, drawing shapes in the dust. Her two older boys, Obina and Chika, had already left to fetch water from the stream. Their bare feet had kicked up red dust as they ran, eager to escape the silence that hung around their mother like a second skin. Whispers floated again from the path. Two village women with baskets balanced on their heads slowed as they approached. "She's the one, the cursed one," murmured the first. "3 husbands dead, each after giving her a child," the second added, not even lowering her voice. Nena heard them. She always did. The whispers never stopped, not in the market, not at the stream, not even during church service. She became Nwanyi Egbudi, the woman who kills her husbands. But none of them had seen what she had seen. None had held the cold hands of a dying man who once whispered promises of forever. None had buried hope 3 times under wet soil while holding a newborn. The first was Ekena, a childhood love, died 3 weeks after their son was born. "Fever," the herbalist said. Emeka came next, a trader from the neighboring town, dead before Chika could walk. "Poison," they murmured. Then came Tobechukwu, the kind carpenter who built her kitchen shelves. Died in his sleep after Ada's naming ceremony. No illness, no warning. After Tobechukwu, the village no longer made excuses. They called it what they believed it was, a curse. A sharp gust of wind blew through the mango trees, tossing dried leaves into the air. Nena stood up slowly, smoothing her wrapper. Her eyes met the sky, clouded and pale. "Chineke, if I am truly cursed, then why give me these children? Why keep taking my joy?" She didn't expect an answer, only silence and the wind. She turned to Adais and managed a faint smile. "Come inside, my child. The sun will soon rise." Inside, their home was small but clean. The walls bore faded pictures of her wedding days, 3 photographs, 3 graves behind the hut. Nena no longer hoped for love. But deep in her spirit, something still burned, a stubborn ember. She didn't know it yet, but that ember was about to catch fire, and Umwes would never be the same again. The village square buzzed with life as the morning sun pushed its golden fingers through the clouds. Traders laid out colorful cloths, mounds of pepper, smoked fish, and baskets of bitter leaf. The air was rich with chatter, battering, and the rhythmic pounding of fufu from distant compounds. But as Nena approached, baskets paused mid-air and laughter died. Mothers clutched their daughters' hands tighter. Young men shifted away, their eyes averted, their minds poisoned by stories that traveled faster than wind. She felt it like a cloak, heavy, suffocating, stitched together with 10 years of suspicion. "They say her womb brings death," a woman whispered behind her. Nena ignored them. She kept her head high, even if her heart sank a little lower with every step. She reached Mama Ejiro's store to buy palm oil and ogiri. Mama Ejiro, the only elder who still looked her in the eye, handed her the goods without a word, but her wrinkled hand lingered on Nena's wrist. "Child, don't carry shame that doesn't belong to you," she said softly. Before Nena could respond, a deep male voice interrupted the market's rhythm. Excuse me, madam, are you the one called Nena? She turned. A tall man stood before her, broad-shouldered, dark-skinned, dressed in jeans and a simple shirt, clearly not from Umuez. His eyes, though, were what unsettled her. They held no fear, no judgment, just curiosity. Who wants to know? She asked, steady but cautious. I'm Dr. Kelechi. I came from Enugu. Mama Ejiro invited me. Mama Ejiro nodded from behind her stall. He's a friend of my late son, a good man. A doctor? In a village where illness was still treated with herbs and fire prayers? Why do you want to speak with me? Nena asked, skeptical. Because I've heard stories, and as a man of science, I don't believe in curses. I believe in causes. The words struck something deep. No one had questioned the cause before. They had accepted it, named her by it, lived by it. But this stranger, this doctor, they dared to suggest there might be a different truth. That night, Nena sat by the fire, watching flames dance like restless spirits. Her children were asleep, their tiny chests rising and falling in rhythm. She replayed Dr. Kelechi's words. I believe in causes. What if the deaths weren't fate? What if something had been overlooked? She looked at the picture of Tobechukwu on the wall and whispered, maybe, just maybe, there's still something left to fight for. The ember inside her pulsed brighter. The next morning, the village awoke to the echo of distant drums. It was market day again, but Nena's compound remained still. Obina and Chika had gone to fetch firewood, and Adaisi sat at the doorway, braiding a doll's hair with strips of raffia. Inside, Ninena stood by the shelf where her husband's photos rested. Ikena, Emeka, Tobechukwu, three smiles frozen in time, three ghosts who'd never left her shadow. She touched Ikena's picture gently, her heart squeezing with old grief. He had been so full of life, her first love. She remembered the way his laugh had echoed across the compound, the way he had sung to her belly during her first pregnancy. I'm sorry, she whispered, but I need to know. I need to understand why. She tied her headscarf, took a deep breath, and stepped out. Mama Ejiro had said, Doctor. Kelechi was staying in the small room behind the church. As she walked, villagers turned their heads, pretending not to see her. But their silence was louder than any insult. She reached the church and knocked gently on the wooden door. Come in, came his voice. The room was sparse, just a bed, a chair, and books piled in neat stacks. Dr. Kelechi looked up from his notes and smiled. You came. I don't know what I'm doing, she admitted, sitting stiffly, but something tells me I need to try. I need to know if I've been carrying a lie. He leaned forward. Tell me everything, from the beginning. So she did. She spoke of Ikena's sudden fever, Emeka's strange stomach pains, Tobichukwu's peaceful sleep that never ended. She shared how each death happened within weeks of childbirth, how no traditional healer, no pastor, no prayer woman had been able to explain it. Dr. Kelechi listened without interruption, jotting notes quietly, his brows furrowed at times, his lips pressed together. But he didn't flinch. He didn't fear her. Do you have anything from them? He asked. Medicines they use, letters, anything? Nena thought for a moment, then nodded. Tobechukwu had a small wooden box. He kept it under the bed. I never opened it. That night, under the soft flicker of a kerosene lamp, she pulled the box out. Dust clung to its corners. Her hands trembled as she lifted the lid. Inside were letters, receipts, and two small medicine bottles, one still half full. She stared at them, heart thudding. Why had he never shown her these? Suddenly, she wasn't just a woman trying to survive. She was a woman on a mission, not just for herself, but for her children, for the truth. She didn't know what the medicine meant, not yet, but she knew one thing. She would not live another day letting others define her with fear. For the first time in years, she had a plan. Dr. Kelechi held the medicine bottle in his hand, turning it slowly beneath the morning sun. The glass caught the light, sending fractured reflections across the table between them. Nenena sat opposite him, wringing her hands. I never saw him take this, she whispered. He said he didn't like medicine. Dr. Kelechi opened the cap and sniffed, then frowned. This isn't fever medicine, he murmured. It smells like a compound I've only read about in toxicology journals. I'll have to test it to be sure. The words struck Nena like a whip. Poison? Her breath caught. Are you saying someone gave this to him? Maybe, he said carefully. Or he took it himself. But something about this feels off. Nenena's head spun. She thought of Tobechuku's peaceful expression the night he died. No signs of pain, no struggle. Could someone have wanted him dead? But who? Outside, the village buzzed with its usual rhythm. Pestles pounding yam, children playing 10-10, goats bleating in the background. Life in Umuez had moved on without asking questions, without needing answers. Everyone had been content to blame the curse. But now, for the first time, there was a crack in the curse's shell. As they sat in silence, a knock came at the church room door. Mama Ajiro stepped in, holding a wrapped parcel. This came from your late husband's cousin, she said to Nena. He asked me to give it to you after Tobechuku died, but I was afraid. Afraid of what? Of what it might prove. Nena slowly unwrapped the cloth. Inside was a small notebook, its pages worn and soft. Her hand shook as she opened it. Tobechuku's handwriting filled the first page. If anything happens to me, this book holds the truth. Forgive me, Nena. She gasped. Her stomach turned to ice. Inside, he had written journal entries about someone who had been threatening him, a family dispute, an old loan. A name appeared multiple times. Chidozi, a cousin, a debt. I told him I was afraid for my life, one entry read. But he said death would be better than dishonor. Dr. Kelechi leaned in. This wasn't a curse, he said softly. This was a crime. Nena's world tilted. She had buried her heart under the weight of shame, carried a burden built on lies. And all this time, the village had been wrong. But how could she prove it? Would they even listen? She felt the old fear rising again, the fear of their eyes, their mouths, their judgment. But now it met something new. Fury, a mother's fury, the kind that burned through silence. He's maybe dead, she said quietly, but I won't let him die for nothing. I will clear my name, for him, for my children. And with that, Nena stood. She was no longer a shadow of grief. She was becoming a flame. Word travels fast in Umuezi. By the next day, rumors flowed like the river after heavy rain. Nena had visited the church with a stranger man. She had been seen handling a small bottle, and someone whispered that she had opened a late husband's secret box. Some said she was trying to fight the curse. Others said she was awakening it. Nena walked through the village square that morning with a different energy. Her wrapper was tied tighter, her chin higher. Fear still danced at the edges of her mind, but it no longer controlled her legs. She carried the notebook, she carried the bottle, and most importantly, she carried the truth. As she approached the shrine of Chief Priest Okafor, a hush fell over the villagers nearby. Okafor was the oldest custodian of tradition, the man who had declared her spirit-stained after Tobechukwu's death. His word was almost as feared as the gods themselves. She stood before the shrine, the air thick with burning herbs and the iron scent of sacrificial blood. Chickens clucked nervously in bamboo cages. Drums sat silent. "Why have you come?" Okafor asked, stepping out. His staff tapped the earth like a warning. "To clear my name," Nena replied, holding up the notebook. "To challenge what you called a curse." Gasps echoed around her. No one spoke to the chief priest like that. No woman. Certainly not one branded with death. "3 husbands," Okafor said. "3 graves. And you still stand." "Because I was meant to," she replied. "Because I carry life, not death." He stepped closer, nostrils flaring. "Then why do they all die?" Enena opened the notebook and read aloud Tobechukwu's final words. She held up the medicine bottle. "He was being poisoned. Not by spirits, not by curses, but by a man you never investigated." Whispers rose. The crowd thickened. "Lies?" Okafor snapped. "Written by a ghost, spoken by a woman who stirs misfortune like soup." But Dr. Kelechi stepped forward from the crowd. "I am a medical doctor. I've tested the bottle. It contains traces of aconite. Poison, not witchcraft." The priest blinked. The people turned. Suddenly the air shifted. "Let him test the bodies," Mama Ejiro said, stepping beside Nena. "Let us see what lies in the bones." Silence fell like thunder. Okafor's face darkened. He turned and disappeared into the shrine. The drums remained untouched. Later that evening, Nena sat by her fire. Her children curled beside her, unbothered by the storm she had stirred. She felt the eyes of the village watching, not with mockery now, but with unease. Some would doubt her, others would fear her voice. A few, perhaps, would begin to listen. For the first time in years, the story of her life was no longer being told about her. It was now being told by her. And she was only getting started. The following morning, the village was split like a calabash, cracked down the middle. Some still crossed themselves at the sight of Nena. Others offered timid greetings. But one name had begun rising in the murmurs like steam from a boiling pot. Chidozie. He had been Tobechukwu's cousin, a lean, sharp-eyed man who smiled too much but never laughed. He lived on the edge of the village near the yam barns and was known for lending money and collecting debts with cold patience. Nena remembered him showing up after the burial, quiet, eyes too dry. She hadn't seen him since. That morning, she stood at the entrance of the village chief's compound, notebook and bottle in hand. The compound was large, with whitewashed walls and iron gates, a rare sight in Umueze. Dr. Kelechi stood beside her, Mama Ejiro close behind. A small crowd gathered outside. Hungry for answers, they weren't brave enough to demand themselves. The chief, Oba Ugonna, emerged slowly, a man of wide chest and heavy voice. "You claim this was no curse, but murder?" he asked. "Yes, Your Highness," Nena said, her voice steady. "My husband feared for his life. He wrote this before he died. I believe Chidozie poisoned him." The chief's eyes narrowed. He turned to a guard. "Bring him." Minutes later, Chidozie stood in the middle of the compound, expression unreadable. He wore a white tunic and carried no fear on his face, but his fingers twitched at his side. "Do you deny this?" the chief asked. Chidozie smirked. "Anyone can write a journal. Dead men cannot defend themselves." Dr. Kelechi stepped forward, holding a slip of paper. "This is a toxicology report. The bottle found in Tobechukwu's box contains aconite, a powerful plant poison, slow-acting, undetectable to the untrained eye. Chidozi's smile faltered. You think I killed him because of some argument over a loan? He said, louder now. He was my blood. So was able to Cain, Mama Ejiro muttered. Gasps echoed again. The crowd thickened, pressing in. The chief raised a hand. We will investigate. Until then, Chidozi is to remain under watch. As guards stepped forward, Chidozi turned to Nena. You think this clears you? He hissed. People forget curses slowly. They still think you are death itself. Nena stepped toward him, eyes burning. Let them. I will walk in the daylight. I will speak in the square. I will raise my children with a name that is clean. Your fear of a woman's voice is louder than any ghost. The crowd stirred. Something shifted. That night, as the sky darkened into indigo, Nena sat with her children on the veranda. Obina leaned on her shoulder. Mama, are we still cursed? She looked at him, eyes glistening. No, my son, we were never cursed. We were lied to. A soft breeze rustled the trees above. For the first time in years, it carried no whispers, only quiet respect. Umuez had never been so quiet. Since the chief ordered an investigation and placed Chidozi under watch, gossip had paused like a breath held too long. The same mouths that once called Nena a cursed woman now whispered with uncertainty, unsure whether to apologize or wait to see what the wind would carry next. But Nena didn't care anymore. She rose with the sun and tied her wrapper with pride. She swept her yard not just for cleanliness, but with the quiet dignity of someone reclaiming ground. The air felt lighter, and for the first time in years, she chose to look people in the eyes. At the stream, where women once moved away from her, they now made room. One even handed her a calabash, small, simple acts, but they felt like thunder inside her chest. She walked past the church and saw Father Eken watching her. He gave a slow, respectful nod. She returned it. Later that afternoon, she sat on the floor mat under the mango tree behind the compound, peeling cassava. Adaze played nearby, while Chika and Ubina chased a makeshift ball across the yard. For the first time in a long time, her compound sounded like home, not a place where sorrow slept. As she scraped the knife against the tubers, her thoughts drifted to her younger self, the girl in a white lace wrapper, laughing shyly on her first wedding day. So full of hope, so sure of forever. She had buried 3 men, 3 dreams, and a part of herself each time. But somehow she was still here, and not just surviving, beginning to breathe again. Mama Ejiro visited that evening, carrying a bundle of fresh scent leaves. She sat with Nena without words for several minutes, listening to the crackle of the fire. The winds are changing, Mama Ejiro finally said. They are, Nena agreed, but they still don't know what to call me. The older woman nodded thoughtfully. Let them watch you. In time, they will find a name worth repeating. That night, as the lantern cast long shadows on the mud walls, Nena held Adais close. The child had fallen asleep mid-sentence, one small hand resting on her mother's chest. Obina whispered from his mat, Mama, are we still cursed? She turned to him in the darkness. No, my son, she said softly. We were never cursed. We were blamed. Silence settled between them, warm and thick. Outside, the wind shifted through the leaves, no longer whispering fear, only quiet understanding. Nena wasn't just trying to prove her innocence anymore. She was learning how to be free. It rained the morning they came. 3 men in faded uniforms, led by the chief's messenger, stood at Nena's gate. Their boots splashed through the red mud as they approached. Adaze clung to a wrapper, eyes wide. "We need you to come," one of them said. "Chidozie is demanding a hearing." The sky was dark with storm clouds, and thunder grumbled in the hills. At the village square, a crowd had gathered beneath the great Udala tree. The air was heavy with tension. Chidozie stood in the center, arms crossed, a smug smile pressed tightly across his face. He looked freshly bathed, like a man expecting to be vindicated. "I will not have my name dragged by ghosts and widows," he said aloud, voice sharp. "If my cousin feared me, let him rise from the grave and say it. But he is dead, and the dead cannot defend lies." Nena stepped forward slowly, the notebook clutched to her chest, and the living cannot ignore truth. Gasps followed. The elders watched, faces unreadable. The villagers leaned in, eager, afraid. Chidozie sneered. "Your cursed tongue has poisoned them, Nena. But I will not bow to fables written in the dark." "Then let us test it in the light," she said. Dr. Kelechi came forward, holding up the laboratory results. The poison found in Tobechukwu's blood matches the bottle recovered from his belongings. Aconite. Traces were found in a parcel delivered to him weeks before his death. It was wrapped in cloth, the same cloth pattern worn by Chidozie's household that week. Murmurs spread like wildfire. Chidozie's jaw clenched. "You want to believe a stranger? A man who doesn't know our land, our ways?" "Then explain this," Mama Ejiro called out, lifting the wooden box. "Why would a man keep letters describing fear? Why did he hide medicine? Why did he write her goodbye?" "Because he feared his wife." "No," Nena said firmly, "because he feared you." Her voice cut through the square like a blade. The silence that followed was not empty. It was loaded with truth. Chidozie's shoulders dropped. He opened his mouth, but said nothing. The chief stepped forward at last. "We will not ignore this, sir. You will remain under house restriction until a final judgment is made. And Nena," he turned to her, eyes softening, "you have shown great courage." The crowd parted as Nena walked away, not because they feared her. This time, they stepped aside out of respect. Back at her compound, she sat alone for a while, the fire crackling beside her. She wasn't smiling, but her chest no longer felt tight. The ache she had carried, shaped like shame, was dissolving. Adais climbed into her lap and laid her head against her. "Mama," she said sleepily, "you are not cursed." Nena closed her eyes. "No, my child, I am not cursed. I'm chosen." Nena's rising redemption, the village's changing perception, and the planting of new hope. As the lantern cast long shadows on the mud walls, Nena held Adais close. The child had fallen asleep mid-sentence, one small hand resting on her mother's chest. Obina whispered from his mat, "Mama, are we still cursed?" She turned to him in the darkness. "No, my son," she said softly. "We were never cursed. We were blamed." Silence settled between them, warm and thick. Outside, the wind shifted through the leaves, no longer whispering fear, only quiet understanding. Nena wasn't just trying to prove her innocence anymore. She was learning how to be free. The rains continued for 3 days, gentle and persistent, like the sky itself had decided to wash the village clean. Children danced half naked in puddles. Old men sat under porches, sipping palm wine and shaking their heads. And in hushed corners, new conversations were being born. "Maybe we were wrong," they whispered. "Maybe it wasn't a curse after all." The walls that had once boxed Nena into silence were beginning to crumble. Mama Ejiro arrived at her compound, carrying yams and freshly picked scent leaves. "You'll cook today," she said, setting them down. And tomorrow, I'll send that stubborn woman Ngozi. She's already asking for your pepper soup recipe. Nena smiled, not out of obligation, but with a softness that had long been buried under years of survival. Her heart, once guarded like a broken pot, now cracked open just enough to let in light. Later, she sat outside beneath the mango tree, pounding cocoyam in a mortar while Ades played at her feet. The boys were nearby, fixing a fence that had broken weeks ago. Life was starting to feel livable. Not perfect, not easy, but free. Dr. Kelechi Disi visited that evening with a small bundle of books. He placed them on a stool and said, "They're about grief, healing, identity. I thought you might like them." She looked at him, "And you believed me," she said, "when no one else did." "I didn't come here to save you, Nena. I came because I believed the truth was worth finding. You're the one who saved yourself." They shared a quiet moment, not romantic, not defined, just two souls who had faced darkness and chosen light. That night, Nena pulled out her old sewing basket. The threads had gathered dust, the needles were rusty, but her fingers still remembered. She patched one of Obina's torn shirts and mended the lining of her church wrapper. With each stitch, she wasn't just fixing fabric, she was weaving herself whole again. The next Sunday, for the first time in years, she walked to church with her children. The path to the church had always felt like judgment, but this time it felt like redemption. No one whispered, no one moved away. And when she entered the compound, the congregation stood quietly, one by one. It wasn't rehearsed, it wasn't for show, it was respect. After service, a small girl tugged at her hand and asked shyly, "Are you the woman who used to be cursed?" Nena knelt and smiled. "I am the woman who refused to stay that way." The girl giggled and ran back to her mother. And just like that, the curse turned into a story, a chapter, a rumor faded by truth. It was a quiet Thursday afternoon when the chief's messenger returned with news from Enugu. The final toxicology reports had arrived. This time not just for Tobechukwu, but for Ikena and Emeka, whose bodies had been tested under discreet order. The village council had allowed the testing quietly to avoid public shame if the judgment proved wrong. Nena sat across from Dr. Kelechi as he read through the results, the paper trembling slightly in his hands. "Ikena died of severe malaria," he said softly. "He wasn't cursed, Nena. He just didn't get the right medicine fast enough." Nena closed her eyes. She remembered the fever, the sweat, the way they had tried herbs that didn't work. "And Emeka?" Dr. Kelechi took a slow breath. Emeka had a peanut allergy. The night he died, he ate soup thickened with groundnut powder. His airways swelled. They didn't know what to do. She covered her mouth, tears running freely down her cheeks. All this time, they had blamed the unexplained. But it wasn't witchcraft. It wasn't her womb. It was misunderstanding, ignorance, tragedy misnamed as a curse. "They all died," she whispered. "And I carry the blame." "Not anymore," Kelechi said. "The truth is here. And it has a name, innocence." The chief summoned the village that weekend. This time the crowd gathered, not with judgment, but with anticipation. He stood in the square, the final report in his hand. "We called her cursed," he said solemnly. "But we were wrong. We were lazy with our fear and blind in our tradition. This woman, Nena, daughter of Nokidi, was never cursed. She was widowed by fate, not by evil." There was no cheering, only silence, the heavy kind that follows shame. Then Mama Ejiro stepped forward and placed her walking stick in the dust. "Let it be known, she said, that Omwes must never carry ignorance as law again. From that day, no one called her names. Children visited her compound to play. Women brought vegetables and asked for recipes. The stigma melted like dew beneath the morning sun. 1 year later, she stood beside the very same Udala tree where her name had once been shamed. Now it bore fruit, ripe and golden, just like the life she had reclaimed. Obina was preparing to enter secondary school. Chika had begun learning carpentry. Adazi chased butterflies around her feet. Nena wore a wrapper she had sewn herself. The threads weren't perfect, but they held. You still keep their pictures? Mama Ejiro asked, sitting beside her one evening. Yes, Nena said. They were good men. I loved them, but now I love me too. She had carried pain. Now she carried purpose. Not as the woman who cursed men, not as the one who was feared, but as the mother who survived and the woman who chose to rise anyway. Dear viewers, what lessons did you take away from this dramatic tale? We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, give us a thumbs up, share it with friends, and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell so that you never miss out on our latest tales. Thank you for watching and be blessed.